What's up, guys? I'm reading an article this morning on the Chinese property giant Country Garden, which is basically another Evergrande story, which is essentially, if you're not aware, the Chinese have overbuilt and they have pumped their economy with this building bridges to nowhere, apartment complexes for no tenants, etc., etc., etc. Essentially, they have a different financing mechanism over there than we do. They work on a 12-year calendar, which a lot of Americans are not aware that they're on a 12-year like financial calendar. We kind of tend to do things over here in like 12 months. And so they have a longer time frame than we do. And so because of that, we're starting to see these things becoming like they're not able to meet their bond payments. When this was obvious to a lot of people, like if you watch Hugh on The Rebel Capitalist, he's a hedge fund manager that lives in St. Bart's. And
the Mitchells want to tell you it required a war, which is nonsense. It required the entrepreneurial spirit to shrug off the bad stuff which had come to pass at the end of the 1920s, when we were all, I would maintain, we were all crucified on a cross of gold. You know,
he was like, yeah, I was over there in like 2009, 2010, and I created a fund to go short the Chinese property market. But what I didn't realize was this 12-year calendar, and that I was perhaps right, but I was so early, and so we didn't profit off of it. This is fine for the Chinese economy to have buildings and bridges built for nothing and no one, and to absorb them and remove the profiteers that built them by design. Okay, so when they post stuff like this over here in the West, and all the American YouTubers are like, oh my gosh, the sky is falling, this is the Lehman Brothers moment. No, it's not. When the black swan comes, you will not see it coming. It's not going to be a replay of 08. A lot of people think that what we're seeing right now, like everyone's like, oh, the stock market's at all-time highs. Oh my gosh. Oh, this must crash at any point in time. Yes, at some point in time, it probably has to, because there are more people that are going to be selling stocks than buying stocks. And this is baked in the demographics because of the baby boomers. There are literally more people in their 60s and 70s than there are in their 30s and 40s. It's a mathematical fact. So as those people become 70s and 80s, they will most definitely be selling their stocks, not buying stocks. Some of those people in their early 60s are still buying stocks, and they're helping contribute. And they will be replaced with much poorer, much more indebted, lot less asset-owning individuals that will be in their 40s and 50s called millennials. And so therefore, there will be more selling than there will be buying. So over the next 10 years, yes, the stock market will most definitely be in a bear-like market. And it could probably do that for literally the next 40 years because of the demographics. I'm not saying the market's going to go perfectly down for 40 years. I'm not saying there won't be any innovation and et cetera. But what I am saying is that, like, if you look at housing in North America, we have more housing than we will ever need based on the people that live in North America at the moment. Now, we may just open the borders and just be like, come on in, and then we need more housing, which is actually like literally a political strategy to solve some of these problems when you're in a decaying empire. So, you know, that's a possibility. But the idea that the Chinese property giants are the leading indicator or the black swan that will sneeze and the whole world will get a cough, no. The Chinese government wants nothing more than to remove these profiteers and replace them with government officials. If you read Karl Marx and the Communist Manifesto, you understand communism. Communism, Marx advocates for, you must have capitalism first. So China is a literal shithole in 1971. Nixon pulls the dollar off the gold standard because we lived above our means, because we're true fat Americans. This is what we do. And we're like, oh, well, how are we going to back the dollar? 1974, we do the petro oil dollar. So essentially we tell Saudi Arabia, hey, bros, guess what's happening? We used to be the oil producers. We used to be the best, wealthiest nation in the world, the largest creditor nation, no debt, etc. But now it's Saudi Arabia is pretty much kicking our butt. But we're going to protect you because we got the guns. We're America, baby. And we're going to protect you. And you're going to sell all oil in dollars. And therefore, dollar is going to be the world's reserve currency. And then what occurs is when debt contracts are done, we do them in dollars. So no matter what happens over here in the West, people have to settle their debts in dollars. So it will always create excess demand of dollars. That's why our political elite get away with printing trillions of them, and there's literally no effects. Now, they stop the oil pipelines and things like that, oil goes up. Okay, but it's by design, because now they're talking about a fourth booster and possibly a fifth. And it's like, this is by design. Your political elites have sold you out, but the Evergrande or the other Chinese property giants are what Marx would say necessary for communism to actually fulfill its destiny. So what you have to do is you start with a shithole in 1971, and now you have American investment. Well, what you need is American entrepreneurs or regular, or any entrepreneurs. Doesn't matter where they come from, but you definitely needed American capital to get this going, and you needed American demand. And so what happens is you let these profiteers like Jack Ma and the rest of these guys build Alibaba and all these large businesses. At which point they are built, because we understand that the government's not good at building things. Obama healthcare website never really worked. So we understand that a private company has to come in and do it. Once the private company has done it, it is then okay in the Communist Manifesto for the government to come in and manage it now that it is built and created. So essentially it's like this quasi like leech parasitic host relationship where the government knows it's a parasitic leech, but it needs a host, and the host has to build and create something. And once it's been built and created, the government can come in and take it over. So the Chinese property market imploding is by frickin' design, and it is an absolute nothing burger. It is going to, like, we're going to look back at this in a year or two and be like, it had nothing to do with whatever happens from here. And I'm going to go on record and say it has zero to do with anything that happens here. Every YouTuber you see, just be like, yo, you can watch OnSiteTrav's video. He's going to tell you it's a big nothing burger. This, like, these people that are saying this have never read Karl Marx. And if you haven't read Karl Marx, then you don't understand that capitalism is a necessity. Because capitalism gets it to its point where now you have companies like Pfizer and these big guys where they become married to the government and they ultimately become like a controlling entity of your society. But when your society is very young and budding and green, you need to allow like capitalistic anarchy to occur. Like the best companies win, like, you know, let them hash it out. And then you end up with Apple and Microsoft, even though you started with 1,000, but you end up with the two winners. Well, then the government can come in and have a nice cozy relationship with Apple and allow them to run their, oh, we're the privacy company. We respect your privacy. Oh, but we are going to look through your photos just to make sure there's no kids in the photos. And if there are, we might be reporting to the authorities. And, you know, we're doing this for the greater good and help the government. And so what happens is they get this very cozy relationship. Communism and capitalism both paint themselves into a corner and ultimately destroy themselves. And so we are at the very end of this cycle, like where we're now walking into a chapter where the large companies basically are entering into like a neoliberalism type of society where it's not socialism, it's not communism, it's just a merger of massive organizations with government organizations who have a monopoly on printing currency and the use of force. And it ends the same way. You have shelves that aren't full, you know, you have people that are all victimized and fake and gay. Like you end up in the same thing where the entrepreneurs like myself and other people, a lot of you guys in this audience go, what's my best investment right now? Oh, it's the capital. It's the real money. It's like, let me stack real wealth that can be moved anywhere. I have other videos on like when you move real wealth somewhere, it doesn't get taxed. Like you can move crypto, you can move silver, you can move gold. You can move it tax-free if you know what you're doing legally. So, you know, this whole Evergrande and, you know, Chinese property giant, you know, country garden thing, this is all a psyop. It's all to distract the peasantry. And, you know, some YouTubers are going to do some good views on it. And people are going to be like, oh, this is the Lehman Brothers moment. No, it's not. When the Lehman Brothers moment shows up, you won't have a clue what's happening because it's already occurring. You're seeing a massive merger of these large entities and your government. And don't think that it's got to crash in the next 12 months because things are at all-time highs. No, they don't. Right? This can go a lot longer than you think. The demographics are against it, but this can go a lot longer than you think. We are entering into a new society. And if you don't want to enter into a new society, you better think about the only one alternative that stands between you and that new society. And it is not a pretty picture if we end up going down that route, but it is probably the best of two evils. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. I will see you in the comments. Peace.